Last week we saw Donna and Christy battle the elements in New South Wales.
There's a few questions I want to ask you about all the feral animals in Australia. Over the last month I've been here in Australia, I've seen in this particular area there's a lot of rabbits. There's not hundreds, there's thousands of rabbits. And just tell me more about what damage they cause to the farmers on the properties. And there's a lot of pigs as well, and foxes and wild dogs, and there is all that animals. You combine it as the feral animals of Australia. Just tell me more about that.
Yeah, well, the rabbits, the damage they cause, they start erosion from all the rabbit warrens. Is actually their home where they live. They'll devastate the farmers' crops by eating their pasture that they plant. It even comes down to trees. They'll actually strip the bark off the bottom of little trees and they'll die. Yeah, and you know, if the farmer's on his horses mustering or whatever, the horse can go down the warrens as well and hurt the horse.
Yeah.
And your foxes, they prey on the rabbits, but the foxes also prey on the lambs that the farmers produce. So it's not only the damage they cause, it's the social and the economic pressure onto the farmer as well. Yeah, and also with the wild pigs, well, they cause erosion, carry diseases, wreck crops, sorghum crops, all sorts of crops. They'll wreck them overnight, hundreds of acres and that sort of thing. Yeah, they fences. Yeah, they're just very destructive as far as a pest animal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the pigs? Were they always in Australia, or where did they came from?
Yeah, well, the wild pigs originally, or feral pigs, they come originally with Captain Cook and the explorers as food.
Yeah.
Especially in the remote areas like Cape York and that, where they come in and settle down in townships. They had them for food and the environment, and when the pigs escaped, obviously, because they were breeding. That's where they originated from, so they were introduced. All our feral animals we've got here are all introduced species. None of them are just natural, except for the pure dingo in a couple of areas.
Yeah.
But other than that, everything was brought in and escaped, and the habitat and the climate and the sparseness of the country, they've just populated.
Yeah, and they are populated all over in Australia.
Yeah,
huh?
everywhere. Yes.
And yesterday you mentioned about the wild horses and camels that you class under the feral animals.
Yeah, well, the camels they were brought in here too with the explorers, and they're in the western part and the other central of Australia, and yeah, well, they've bred up too, and you know, they're classed as feral because
Yes.
they're introduced as well. And the horses, yeah, well, a lot of them have just bred up and spread out as well. A lot of them were brought back from the war and that sort of thing, and released back in there. Or they're the true brumbies.
Yeah.
But the numbers, if they get well too high, they devastate the environment as well. So, and if the farmers are out mustering on their horses, then wild horses can attack the other horses, not the actual person,
Yes.
but the horses themselves,
Oh,
like
okay.
the stallions. Yeah, well, probably the feral animals in Australia is a totally different hunting atmosphere to other parts of the country, because there are feral and there are pests, so they're not a animal that's farmed or anything like that. They're virtually controlled
Yeah.
to help the agricultural environment and the environment to
Yeah.
survive.
Yeah. And then I want to go back to the hunting industry. When I compare Australia hunting to South Africa, it's a whole different story. South Africa is a hunting industry.
Yeah.
There's so many hunting farms out there back in South Africa, but now we're in Australia. Tell me more about the hunting industry in Australia.
Yeah, well, the hunting industry in Australia is totally different to Africa and America and other countries, because we don't actually have safari farms. There are a few safari outfitters up north
Yeah.
and a few other people who do things. The safari outfitters up north are basically pigs, scrub bulls, buffalo and bangtang. So
Do
know,
they breed it to keep the population
there's
growing?
there's not really any game ranches as such as fenced in.
Yes.
They're basically free range, but that's their natural environment where they've sort of stayed and populated.
Oh, okay.
And the animals are sparse in Australia, so up north you've got the buffalo, and then there are a few sambar up there, your bangtang and your camels and that sort of thing. But if you want, and pigs, but then you might want a sambar, so you go to Victoria, which is 2 states away.
It's a fresh morning, and yesterday afternoon we ended with a big storm, but after the storm we got it lucky, and me and Donna both got a pig. And so this morning it's still early, so we're gonna go out, and hopefully all the animals will come out of the thickness of the bush and feed in the opens. So hopefully we get some deer this morning or pig.
Margaret and Donna headed out for a hunt, looking for a fallow deer for Margaret to shoot. On this occasion, the fallow deer were on the move and weren't sticking around for a stalk. But suddenly, Margaret spotted a pig in the distance, so the plans changed and they went after it. The pig was still about 400 metres away from Margaret, but she stayed well hidden until about 200 metres. There was a big rock 40 metres from the pig, which Margaret used as cover. As the pig moved, Margaret moved to stay behind the rock. Then one wallaby jumped in front of the pig and sat there contently. But it was not only the pig Margaret had to contend with. There were eyes and ears everywhere. Kangaroos and wallabies were crouched to her left and right, threatening to bound off and spook the pig at any moment. Margaret needed to sit and wait patiently until the wallabies moved before she could take her shot, but at the risk that the pig could be spooked at any moment. She waited for the perfect opportunity. The moment they moved, she took the shot. And it was a perfect shot. Margaret crossed a creek to reach her pig. Photos were taken and her last respect to the animal given before heading back to the ute.
He's a big fella. A perfect shot. Just exactly where I aim. I'm happy. I work a bit, but I'm happy.
Part of the Huntress aim to demonstrate to all people the power of drive, ambition and unity. We aspire to be positive role models for all women, men and children, to be valued for our skills, knowledge, ability to share, learn and succeed, and encourage others to succeed. On the way back to the ute, Margaret spotted a fox digging for rabbits. Using a tree for cover, she stalked in. But once again, the roos were wreaking potential havoc on her stalk. She found herself a lean against a tree, but had to act quickly because a bunch of kangaroos were on their way over. The moment the fox stood still for a moment, she took the shot from 125 metres. And he dropped on the spot. Margaret couldn't have timed it better. After the shot, the roos moseyed on.
I've just shot a fox on about 120 meters. He's causing, foxes around this area causes a lot of trouble. It's the farmers farm with sheep and they are killing sheep lambs by hundreds. So I've done the farmer a big favor by shooting one of them, and it's one less fox to worry about. So, one perfect shot. Gee.
It was the perfect conclusion to a successful 2-in-1 hunt. In the next episode, we revisit the series highlights and the funny moments. Until next time, see ya!